That held for quite a long time. Welcome. We can officially get started. So it is 1 o'clock. How do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally? How was the last hour and 45-minute practice? No, it was like an hour and a half practice. It was like 90-minute practice.
I feel chilly.
Chilly? Oh, good to know. Okay. There is a... Are you going to bring her your coat? I can turn on the heat. I can definitely turn on the heat, so thank you. How else are we feeling? Are you chakra'd out yet?
No.
Did you notice that the thing that we were doing towards the end was all about your chakras?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You didn't? Okay.
No, I didn't either.
So the two of my favorite writers about the chakras are Gurmukh and Anodea Judith. So the manual is based off of both. Gurmukh is Kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
So she has and Kundalini yoga is about, it includes chakras as well. So there's slightly different perspectives off of the same thing. So the board over there, if you ignore the part on the top that says samasti tihi over and over again, those are some affirmations that they're actually in your manual for each of the chakras. So the bottom, the first, the Muladhara, is I am here. The second is life is full of pleasure. The third is the fire within me burns through all fears. Then there's I am worthy of love for your heart. I hear and express myself truthfully for your throat. I am open to the wisdom within for your intuition, for your third eye. And the world is my teacher, or the universe is my teacher. So that was a little bit of a meditation. Even if you don't use and get really in depth in the chakras, those affirmations and those small phrases, repeating them on a regular basis when they make sense to you, can be really powerful. There are many, many, many different things that you could say for each of them. If you are curious and want to get a little bit more in depth, I highly recommend The 8 Human Talents by Gurmukh. Yogi Bhajan was her teacher, her mentor, and she has a ton of exercises. So it's a really practical, like, how do I use this? Now I know what this term is, I know what it does. How do I actually balance it in my life? And the way she speaks is just beautiful. So I would highly recommend that. If you want to get really, really, really in-depth, this book, Eastern Body, Western Mind, is definitely...
I think everyone should have that book.
This book?
Just for life.
In general?
No, because it talks about all your chakras, but it talks about, when they're open, when they're closed, like how you can balance them, like what, even in children, and it starts with infancy, birth, and you can recognize patterns in your kids and, correlate it to their chakra.
Well, and it also, I like that it includes the child, the development, it's the same, again, I always relate it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's similar. Mm-hmm. So it's very similar. You can definitely use it as a tool. This book I particularly love if you have time to go into it, for sure. I think that the chakras are a really powerful tool when it makes sense to you. Yeah. So before we mention, you talked about forgiveness, so you did a forgiveness exercise. Stephanie said something really beautiful yesterday that I wrote down, and it kind of changed my life a little bit, and I can't believe I'd never heard it before. Would you like to share what it was? Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, when I get put on the spot, my mind goes blank. Okay, let me think for a second.
Would you rather I not put you on the spot, or would you rather I do it?
Exercise.
Okay, just making sure.
Teaching would have been just on the spot.
That's true.
This summer I went to a women's gathering, and it's called Spirit Weavers. It's at Cave Junction in Southern Oregon. It was 300 women for 5 days, just embracing and embodying what it means to be feminine. And one of the things that they told us was, "Thank you, I love you. Please forgive me. I forgive you." And
I thought it was beautiful. It's such a boundaries type thing. It really puts everything into perspective. I was thinking, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, because this, I don't know about you, but is teacher training at all opening you up and making you a little bit more raw? Are you looking? Sometimes it's very emotional. You're just opening yourself up to this big thing. You don't know what to expect, and you're doing a lot of introspection. but everybody goes through it. So each round that I do, I also am going through a big transition and learning a lot and bringing in all of this and using it to change. So I was going through some self-doubt and in just a silly thing, but that helped. That helped. Yeah, I just think it's beautiful.
Helped me immensely also.
Yeah.
Just when I start to get kind of opinionated about things or feeling about stuff in life, it just like levels it. It's like, you know what, I am thankful. I do love you. I probably need to be forgiven, and I've
Yeah.
already forgiven you. It helps me move past the stages of processing or through them.
Yeah, I feel like it makes you intellectualize your emotions so that you can see them and witness them and experience them and move on. Yeah. For me, it goes hand in hand with my personal affirmation lately, which has been the universe is my teacher. I'm trying to be very humble, or allowing myself to take the seat of the student, which no matter how much we learn, we're always the student, right? Yoga, you could spend a lifetime studying it, and there's still more to learn. There's still, you can educate yourself as much as you want, but really it's the practice that every day that gets you the experience that you grow from. So the world is my teacher, the universe is my teacher, and then thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I forgive you. I just thought it was beautiful. Boundaries, all about boundaries. The one other thing I like about Human Talents is, and we will talk about this together in a couple weeks, I think 2 weeks from today, just giving you enough time from the other chakra lecture to the next one, is radiance. So radiance is technically the 8th chakra, and that's your aura. So we did 4 or 5 Kundalini yoga chakra balancing exercises today. I just peppered them in. She's my mentor. She just doesn't know it, and I'm going to meet her next year. Just wait and see. But the radiance one is the aura one. You can think of it as it's your energetic bubble. Like, we can put a lot of words into it, right? It's your boundaries. So the thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I forgive you is just another verbal way of expressing those boundaries, which life and yoga is all about boundaries. So moving on from chakras, I just wanted to let you know, in case you happen to be called to read more, not that you don't have enough to do right now.
Does that writer do workshops, or?
She teaches, yeah.
She does?
Yeah, she does group classes down in San Francisco.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, next year when we take
I'll
our
go with
trip,
you.
we're going to go. Yeah?
Let's
Oh, I
go.
would love that. Also, can I put it out there that I want to go to Spirit Weavers next
so
year?
Yeah,
cool.
let's go.
That sounds great.
Seriously,
A room full, like a
it's super
300 women that are just like in
intense
touch with their feminine side.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
like to
it
do
was
that.
the most like humbling raw
When
experience.
is that exactly?
It was it's the first and second weekends of June. I don't know if it'll be
Okay.
the same this coming year. They do a sun session and a moon session.
I can drive us down in our hippie van. It'll be done by then.
Hi.
Yeah?
It's really
No, it's
beautiful.
great. It's going to be a beautiful van.
There's
It's
no more
right
yoga
on a lake.
sessions than that.
I
Will
know.
drive us down in our hippie van.
It's getting done painted right now. I
That's
know. It's turquoise.
Adorable.
It's so pretty.
Done.
Yeah. The pop top is tie-dye. Anyway,
Cool.
so that way nobody knows we're true hippies until we pop it up.
Right,
And they're like,
Right.
all right.
Yeah.
So anatomy, I'm really glad that y'all got the anatomy portion done. How long did it end up taking you? Was it more than an hour per module?
I don't know.
Right at an hour, maybe.
Okay. Was it new information? Melissa, was it anything new to you?
All of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I haven't finished module 3.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That one, I was reading it this morning just for fun, just to peruse it. Yeah, okay. I don't remember exactly what you've missed then, but that's okay. We can still go over it. Do you have your discussion questions that you wrote down if you happen to write them down with you? If you do, we can open up to module 2 and I can read them out loud and we can answer them together as a group if you don't already have them written down. First, I would like to point out that one of the reasons why I like David Keel is he said a couple of things in the first couple of sections that you probably read that I highlighted that I wanted to share. Practice not as an individual asana, but as elements that are related to the context of a greater whole. So I like how everything is, yes, we have to separate it individually, but it's all part of something greater. It's kind of his whole thing, right? Is that yes, we're all individual, but really we're all together. It's very yoga way of looking at it. We are products of our converging histories. So how did you feel about that? Did that make sense? There's so much. Basically, I can look at you, but I literally have no idea what's going on with your body. So we can learn body language as much as we possibly can. But in the end, it's up to our students. They have a responsibility to share with us. and it's up to us to pay attention. So if they say, I'm fine, but then they are doing this and their high plank feels shaky, like, no, they're not fine. We don't know why. Maybe we don't approach them about it, but we can learn that about them. Okay. What about, well, we don't need to talk about that. So the discussion questions for Module 2 for the connective tissues. So first, what are the connective tissues, the 6 connective tissues?
Fascia.
Fascia. Muscle's my favorite because we never, ligaments.
Tendons.
Scar tissue.
Cartilage? Yeah, cartilage. Yep. And the fascia specifically, so do you remember the 3 kinds of fascia?
Superficial.
Yes, that's the under the skin containing the fat, and that is something really cool that you can have, like you can, as you massage yourself, or you can manipulate the fascia. I went to a massage once where they actually readjusted and my pants fit differently. Like that's a thing. And I said, can you do that every day at my house? Thanks, bye. She said, no, but she taught me how to do it. I can show you if you want to do it for you. It's really cool. You have to,
Just like lift and move everything.
yeah, if you are on the end of a table or a bed, it's a lot easier because you can kind of hang the quarter of your body off
If
and
your
then
jeans are a little
pull.
tight.
It just feels good to readjust all that, especially if you have cellulite. I don't know if anybody else has cellulite. I wish you could. I'm sure you could do that for your leg as well, but it's just fascinating. So superficial, yeah. And what was the other 2? Visceral
And deep.
and deep. And you can rearrange all of these. We can manipulate all of these. If you were to put a ultrasound on any internal organ in your belly and push, it responds to the push. So whenever we round our body in a yoga pose, it's so cool that it moves around with it. And that's things like gallstones. We can move our gallstones around so they hopefully don't get stuck and get infected. Hopefully. Who really knows? But we can have an impact on where things are located and where things get stuck. So moving everything around. There's a lot of specific yoga poses, like the one when you're on your knees. If you're on your period, we skip that. Or if you're expecting baby. You bring your hands just above your hips into fists and round all the way down until your forehead is touching the ground, and then you come all the way back up. And on the way back up, your stomach has to work to help lift you back up, and that compresses your ascending and your descending colon. And what was the last one? Was deep, yeah. So we do the same thing every time we move through asana. So the first discussion question for Module 2 was, give a couple examples of how your yoga practice may have affected your connective tissues. Does someone want to share what they think or what they wrote?
Can you say the question again?
Yeah, give a couple examples of how your yoga practice may have been affected by, or may have affected your connective tissues. So how does your asana, how does your practice affect your connective tissues? As we learned about why they get harder, right? Because you said the other day, the really cool thing you learned about the tension of tissues and what that actually means.
Yeah.
Does it mean you're strong?
No, not necessarily. I didn't understand that building muscle or building to get larger muscle was not the muscle expanding, but it was just layers of fascia getting added. And I was like, that is not what is marketed as what is going on. But it was more like, I'm like, you're just hardening this part. You should not do that.
No.
You should not harden it. Like, every time I see a bodybuilder now, I'm like, you should stop.
Well, push on them.
That looks like
Because
a
if they're
cable.
soft, then their muscle is good, right? But
It
if
just
they're
looks like
rock
it's
hard, then
painful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the cells, right? They do expand, but then the layers end up. That's why I think we all have a muscle in our body that feels too tight all the time and can use. So what's a thing that we know that promotes circulation and that can manipulate the connective tissue? Yeah, in Sanskrit that's abhyanga.
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 Yeah. And that's in Ayurveda, and we'll learn about it in our Ayurveda lecture. But simple as find the spot that feels like that, give yourself some love, or go pay somebody else to give you some love. I mean, get a massage, pay for a massage.
Love.
So how else has your asana, so has your practice, has your dedication affected your connective tissue? And yes, it's a little bit elementary, but let's have at least one person
Makes
share.
it flexible.
Yeah, makes it flexible, makes your connective tissue more flexible. Yes.
We
Okay.
did a little bit of yin yoga last week, and that was
Yeah.
really good for like stretching out our different connective tissue, our
Yeah.
ligaments and tendons, and letting our muscles relax while we stretched out the other stuff.
Yeah. So orange is your favorite color. Orange is so close to yellow. Yellow is your center of confidence. When you speak, will you speak like you want me to hear you?
Yep.
Yeah, because I want to hear you. Also, because we're recording and I want them to hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad that you got to experience that. Good. What about, does anybody else want to share before I move on?
I used to take care of adults with developmental disabilities, and one of the gals I was supporting used to come up, she'd sneak up behind me violently and then grab onto my arm and then just drop dead weight. She's like 4'10", solid muscle. And so one day she just got me, like totally tore
Yeah.
like some muscle deep down here in my back.
Aw.
And I started doing yoga really regularly shortly after that. And it's taken a few years, but it's totally healed it. Like,
Yeah.
I know it would still probably be a problem, even though that was 10 years ago. We're helping
Yeah.
to repair that and strengthen. It has to have strengthened
surrounding
connective
muscles.
tissues and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's amazing to me that we used to think when you're hurt, don't do anything, stop moving, mobilize it, but that's not actually. Massage and movement right away typically can help.
Yep.
Typically, depending on the situation. A lot of times it can help though.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Why is connective tissue important to yoga? It's a good question. If you think of, they're all technically connective tissues, but
It is the key component of flexibility.
yeah, that was the answer that we were looking for. Yep, key component. Flexibility allows you to move. Let's go to your manuals. Let's open up. That's done. That was all we were talking about. Do you have any other questions about connective tissues? As long as you did it and you read it and we're good. Okay. So if you go to section 5 of your manual, let's go to page 17. So let's talk more about muscles. So page 17 is the muscular system. So here's some fun facts. Let's just read it a paragraph at a time. So I'll read the first one and then we can start with Judy and go around. So page 17, section 5, the human body has 656 muscles individually, making up around 40% of our weight. They're elastic connective tissues with actin and myosin proteins, blood vessels, nerves, held in shape and made a part of with connective tissues. They act with other connective tissues to stabilize the joints, resist gravity, and allow your joints to experience their full range of motion. Judy?
Oh, sorry, I'm still looking for it.
Oh, in your manual, the one with the three-ring binder.
Oh,
Yeah,
so sorry.
that's okay. Page 17. Naya, would you like to read this one instead, please, of the three?
Of the 3 types of
Okay.
muscles, the skeletal muscles which move the bones, the cardiac muscles are of the heart, and smooth muscles are of the visceral organs, airways, and blood vessels. We will focus on skeletal muscles.
Thank you. Judy?
When skeletal muscles are stimulated by the central nervous system, release of calcium disperses itself within the muscle cells. Actin and myosin get attached or attracted to one another when calcium is introduced and contracts the muscle. When the stimulation of calcium stops, the attraction stops and the muscle relaxes. This happens instantaneously. A tube of connective tissue surrounds rows of actin and myosin together, forming a muscle cell that is shaped like a straw. These straw-shaped muscle cells are grouped together and surrounded by connective tissues, then are bundled together with more connective tissue to form muscles and muscle groups.
Thank you. Hannah?
Keep in mind that all movements are affected by gravity, and changing the orientation of the body can change the muscular requirement and available range of motion. When in legs up the wall in the L shape, your hip flexors and quadriceps work to keep your legs up and straight while the rest of your body relaxes. While taking the same L shape position in a seat staff pose, your abdomen and spinal muscles work harder to help you maintain the seated position and support your spine, while your abductors,
Gluteals.
there you go, and calves engage to squeeze your legs together. While taking the L-shaped position in a stand, your spine, abdominal, glutes, hamstrings, and calves work hard to fight gravity from pulling your torso towards the ground.
Thank you.
Experimenting with familiar positions in different orientations in relation to the ground will expand your practice, help ensure you move in all planes of motion regularly, and inspire you to appreciate your muscles and the way they react to gravity.
Thank you. So one of the most interesting things about learning about muscles is that when we're in the pose, there are certain things that are happening. The transitions, though, are where a lot of the strength comes from. So not knowing where we're going to come from and not knowing where we're going to go, there's a lot else that's going on. So for example, mountain pose down to forward fold, just the notice of your shoulders. So we're strengthening, right? Squeeze your shoulders back and down. You're strengthening the muscles in your upper back, your rhomboids, your subscap. But the second we come forward, you're strengthening your, right? We're slowly, and it's not a lot in this variation because we're just resisting gravity slowly. If you're coming up and taking even slower time, it might be a little bit more. But it changes to the tops of your shoulders, your abdomen holding you up and in. Your hamstrings are starting to work and hold you as you start to hinge forward. You come all the way down, and then you relax. Your quads have taken over just enough strength to hold you upright in an upright position. So as we learn the poses, we'll talk about the specific poses that are the specific muscles that are strengthening and stretching during the pose, but keep in mind that there's a lot that's happening. So when we do this, there's not just, this is different than the whole movement of this, right? There's a lot more going on. So it's not, this is like the tip, then we'll learn all the movements of the muscles, so you'll be able to say, when we're here, what are we strengthening? So we're strengthening shoulders in general here. The second you go out, it's your medial deltoids, right? Your biceps are working to resist gravity. Slower all the way down. Finally, your shoulders are completely relaxed. And all it is your traps keeping you up. Okay. So this is not everybody's favorite, but we're going to talk about it. So does anybody know the difference between concentric, eccentric, and isometric contractions? It's one of those things like the anatomical terms of that we went through, you and I together, of proximal and distal, just very anatomical things that we don't use too often. In a regular yoga class, other than yin, you'll go through all of these. So it's good to know what this is as long as you move through all planes of motion. The way that I will teach you to practice and teach, you don't actually have to know these because you're going to be doing these. But it's good to know what they are. So the first one is a concentric muscle contraction. So that is when the attachment points move closer together, like in a sit-up. So your abdominals, when you're rounding, they are moving closer together. They are shortening, they are contracting. And eccentric is when they move farther away in a slow and controlled manner to resist gravity. So many, many, many muscles in, say, downward facing dog or down to child's pose. Where else can we think of that happening when you're resisting gravity? That forward fold, right? We are taking our time. You are using your muscles so that you don't plop all the way down to the ground. So that would be an example of an eccentric. And then isometric sounds like isolate. It is. The muscle tension increases, but the length of the muscle remains the same. So your neck and easy pose, we are using your semispinalis capitis. We're using the muscles gently in your neck to reach up, to lengthen. If you were just relaxed, that's called a tonic contraction, which we don't even talk about here. The book talks about it a little bit. Tonic contraction is when you're under anesthesia, there's no tonic. You just flop over, right? There's nothing. Your limbs can do whatever. Tonic, I think of tonic as the first couple poses that we talked about. There's not a lot going on, right? Yes, you're engaging your core just enough so that you don't fall over. That's like a tonic contraction. Now, in easy pose, and some of the poses we've already broken down, there's a little bit more because we are engaging your abdominal lock. We are drawing up and in. That's more of that isometric contraction, right? Oh, yes, just making sure. But depending on if you're relaxing, so that's tonic, just what we have to do to remain our human shape. And then if it doesn't change the length, but you're using it, that's isometric. So isolating, we do a lot lifting, right? Typically, we use lots of muscles. However, that's why sometimes it's easier just to say your shoulders are working. However, like rhomboids is one that it's really nice to isolate those, even if muscles around them are working. So rhomboids we did a little bit this last week before, as when you're laying down on the ground, that whole way to isolate them. And rhomboids are some of your postural muscles, so we want those really, really strong. Not all of us, but most of us said we want to be able to sit up tall with our shoulders back and down. So rhomboids are that little strap here and here. And they help bring your shoulders back and down. So one of the ways to isolate those is either cobra pose or hands to your ears. Lift up and then squeeze your shoulders back and down.
Can you see that to make sure? A
Mhm.
little bit.
So, what would that be an example of? Were my rhomboids, were the attachments getting closer together or farther apart or staying the same?
Concentric.
Yeah, concentric. Yeah, they were shortening and getting closer together. What's another yoga pose? Anybody? Yoga pose? We're in yoga training. Let's just pick one. Just pick one. Naya, are you feeling comfortable, by the way?
Yeah.
Can I turn off the heat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
A concentric muscle or just any?
Just name any yoga pose, and then we'll talk about which contractions are helping us to hold that shape.
Trikonasana.
Triangle pose, Trikonasana.
It's a fun word to say.
Oh,
It's a
isn't it?
fun word to hear in general as well.
So great. So Trikonasana. So this isn't really a movement because we're holding it, right? Most of the poses, like in the rhomboids, you could see. So what would we normally come from?
Where
Word
to?
two.
Okay. So in Warrior Two, your right thigh is flexed. Let's talk about legs first. So just your right, we're backwards. Your left quadriceps, are they shortened? Or are they lengthened? So your quadriceps work to straighten your legs. Your hamstrings work to bend your knee. So quadriceps is straight. Hamstrings is bent. Does it seem like the attachment points are getting farther away? Or they're staying the same?
Staying the same.
Yeah, I think they're staying the same. If you were to engage your quads, they're shortening.
Right.
But I didn't really. So if you were to engage, yes. Let's come down. How about, what other muscles are working?
Core.
Yeah, well, it should be, right? So draw your belly up and in, roll your right shoulder back. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to see. But I definitely feel a little bit through, so it is a side bend, right? So I do feel it in my QL. So if you think something is stretching, are the attachment points farther away from each other, or are they closer together?
Farther away.
Farther away.
Which would be what kind of contraction?
Eccentric.
Yeah, eccentric. Yeah, and let's say that out loud. So you say concentric,
Concentric.
eccentric,
Eccentric.
isometric,
Isometric.
and just for fun, tonic.
Tonic.
Okay. So finally, let's talk about rhomboid. So one of them, the top rhomboid, the top shoulder, is working back and down. So what kind of contraction would that be?
Concentric.
Yeah, shortening. Inner thigh. So the back leg, inner thigh, is that being stretched? Well, okay. How about that? Is it being stretched? I feel very Captain Morgan-y.
A little bit.
So what kind of a contraction is the stretch? Eccentric, yeah. So a stretch isn't necessarily a contraction, right? There's passive stretching, there's active stretching. There's a lot of different schools of belief on that. Yoga, we have all kinds. We have many different kinds, other than we just don't have the hopping kind of stretching, that warm up where you go back and back like athletes do. We don't do that, but we typically get all the other kinds of stretching. So tension versus compression. So tension is in muscle or connective tissue, tightness that restricts movement, but we can do something about it. So in easy pose, when you're sitting in a cross-legged position, if somebody's knees are up, but it's their inner thighs that is holding them up, that is a tension situation, which we can help. Over time, it will help. If their hip joint in the socket, the labrum and the shape of their acetabulum does not allow the head of their femur to come out, there you go. I don't know if you can see that, but if, maybe like that. Yeah. If it doesn't allow it, that's compression. We don't want to force that. That will not change over time. That will eventually cause that joint to wear down if we press. People don't often know the difference between compression and tension. What we can do is educate them. We can help them pay attention to their body. We can use blocks to lift up. If when they lift up, all the feeling is gone, they're like, oh, that's great. They lift blocks, their knees up with blocks. Usually that's because it's a tension situation. So if they're relieved by that, usually you're like, okay, it's probably something that we can loosen up her back, loosen up his legs. If it's my hips feel stuck, that's not a situation that we want to push through. And that's why instead of saying push harder, deeper, we say, how does that feel?
My hips burn, and it burns right here.
Your hips burn.
Yeah, it burns really bad.
In
When
there?
I sit in easy pose for too long.
Do your legs go asleep? Or
Not
tingling
really.
numbness?
No, that's why I sit in hero's pose a lot.
Yeah.
Because I can hold this for a little while, but the burning,
And it's the top of your hip.
it's like my hip and.
Does it
right
feel
in
like it
here.
might be your hip flexor?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I've had hip things in the
Okay.
past.
Okay.
But it just burns.
Yeah, hip burning is not unusual in that. Also in deep lunges. Oftentimes people will be like, why does my hip burn?
Mhm.
Yeah. Does anybody else feel anything? We talked about easy pose. We went into it, but anything else like that you want to bring up before we go on? Okay. So tension, compression, we can do a lot with tension, not so much with compression. So some people don't know the difference, and we can help them over time. But finally, the opposing muscle principle states that upon facing resistance that a muscle can't overcome, the opposite muscle has to relax. So there are two neuromuscular principles that you'll learn about, and this is the one that we can use. The other one is that resistance to help people stretch, which when we did the twist the other day. So if you press against a muscle and have somebody press into it, and you hold it for 8 seconds, then release, they usually can increase their range of motion. So Naya, would you please be a body, and I can show everybody what they mean, or what I mean by that, and just sit down in a cross-legged position. So, and can you take your coat off for just one moment, and then turn around and face the other way? Thank you. So you'll twist to the right. So bring your right hand behind you, left hand to your right knee. So right now, if we were trying to strengthen and increase the range of motion behind her shoulder, I would press my hand gently into her right shoulder and tell her to press into me. So press your hand, or press your shoulder into my hand. And you ground yourself down when you do this, and you hold it there and keep pressing. Can you do a little bit more? Yeah, look to your right, and let's hold it for 5, 4, a little bit more for 3. Hold it after I stop counting for 2, and 1. Press a little bit more. So not a lot, but definitely enough. That's something. Okay, shake it out and do the same thing on the other side just so you feel like you're balanced. Why would we want to do this? If we, keep pressing. If we have studied somebody's body and we know their body and we feel comfortable. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So a little loosey-goosey on the left side. Okay, good. Take it off. Thank you. Thank you very much. If we know that usually their body can do something, and one week they come in because they're feeling really tight, and towards the end of class there is an opportunity where they're already warm and you know that you can help assist their range of motion, you can. Just remember that they are doing it, you're assisting them. So we'll use that very, very intermittently. But the opposing muscle principle is one that we will use all the time. So in a seated forward fold, when you don't engage your quads, your muscles are relaxed, right? Right now my nervous system isn't telling anything to my hamstrings or to my hip. It's mostly telling my butt not to slide side to side and to stay balanced. But the second you engage your quads, you're sending messages to the muscles in your quadriceps to hold on, and your hamstrings have to relax so you can get a safe stretch that way. When else can we use that, do you think? We tried it already with the chaturanga. We did the variation of chaturanga. So a really cool way to look at that is when you come down, my triceps have to work really hard. So if you were to bring your hand over, my biceps are like punny. Yeah, that's actually my favorite. That's my favorite example. Hamstrings are so, I don't know about you, but for me, even when I do that, they're not like putty. We use them so often. They're not like putty. However, it is the same principle. And if you look to the page, so page 19, that bottom, common agonist and antagonist pairs, oftentimes that's your jam. So if your hip adductors are on, so if you are squeezing your thighs in really tight, that will make your gluteus medius relax. And again, it depends on the tension, depends on how many layers of connective tissues. But we can use that to our advantage. So if you're having your glute fire over and over again, what can we do to release it? Well, we can bring a block between our thighs and we can squeeze our thighs in together. Has anybody ever had a muscle stuck that was like on fire? right? Super uncomfortable. Yeah, and you're like, what do I do? One of my favorite hamstring releases is if you lay on your belly, and somebody, you know your ischial tuberosities at the bottom of your pelvis. There's two little, right at the bottom, your butt bones. So when you sit at the end of the chair, your butt bones. So you have to obviously trust the person or have a massage therapist do it. You take your two fingers and you actually have somebody press behind your butt up into your ischial tuberosity, and then they go like this.
And they release it?
And they release it, and it is the coolest. It is the coolest thing. I just ask my friends to do it for me because you can't do it to yourself because you're engaged so much. But we can use this to help. So deltoids and lats, which is really interesting if you think about it. So if your deltoids are working, your lats have to release. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the action. So agonist and antagonist is just one side and the other. Agonist is the prime mover, but as we discussed earlier, most poses don't have one single muscle that's in charge. So agonist is primary, antagonist, stabilizer, synergist all work together. Or excuse me, stabilizers or synergists all work together, and antagonist is the opposite side that relaxes in order to allow that to happen. So again, as long as we have a well-rounded class, you'll do all of these things. But it's helpful to know if you feel like, okay, I've done a lot in my biceps today, what can I do to balance it out? Work on your triceps. Okay. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole training. So this is, if you want to get your pen out, you can. Flip to the next page, to page 20. Do we have any questions about those? Those concepts aren't new. They're pretty basic. Okay. And again, it's always there if you want to study up. You do not need to be an expert in that. You do need to be an expert in watching the body and in being able to have a full, well-rounded class or sequence. So these are really basically the major muscles of the body. These, I might say, are the things that I would say this is the depth that I would go into in my classes. Most people still don't know what the gastrocnemius or the soleus are. However, if you look down to, sartorius and adductor longus, those are adductors. So if you want to connect those are adductors. So those are inner thigh muscles. Those are the muscles that bring your legs together. Rectus femoris is the group we refer to as our quadriceps. Semimembranous, semitendinous, and biceps femoris are your hamstrings. Gastrocnemius and soleus are your calves. So your sternocleidomastoid is one you can actually hold on to. So if you turn to the side, let's see, how do we get to it? Yeah, turn to the side, and you can bring the opposite, so whatever direction you're facing, lift that arm up, and it's actually a rope-like muscle. Super uncomfortable, so you can grab onto it, and then walk your fingers up below. No one likes it, it's not a good thing, I'm just saying that's what we can do. And then switch, let's do the same thing on the other side. So it's easiest when you turn because that tendon really pops out. So that is your SCM, or your sternocleidomastoid. One of the big muscles that's responsible for turning sideways. So your SCM, it rotates, and then it also allows for lateral flexion. So that's side to side. So easy neck release is an SCM release. We're stretching that, letting it go. And we pinned today our traps. So you're able to get both your trapezius strength lengthened as well as your sternocleidomastoid. And so your trapezius is next. That's that big triangle-shaped muscle at the back. Deltoids, so technically deltoids, the whole top of your shoulder. They're broken up into 3. So your front deltoids is anterior. So anterior is in the front, posterior is in the back, medial is in the middle. So your anterior deltoids allow you to reach your arms forward. Your medial deltoids allow you to reach your arms back. Your posterior deltoids, to the side, and your posterior deltoids are back. So it's kind of forward for your forward, side for your middle, back for your back. So the deltoids are pretty easy as long as we do this. And what kind of poses do we do this in? Do we ever do this in any pose? Chair pose? Yeah. This or this? And what about this? Okay, what about this? Yeah, all the way. Yeah, and then back. Think of like on our belly. We do, sometimes you can lift up like that.
Locust or something.
Yeah, locust, full locust for sure. So as long as we get all, or a wide range of poses, you'll get all of them. Pectoralis, so major or major and minor underneath. We usually just call those our pecs. Most people, you refer to them as your shoulders, your deltoids, your neck muscles, your traps, and your SCM, and then your chest. We don't have to get into specific. External obliques are, everybody knows obliques, so we have external and internal. External allow the twisting. Internal aid in the side to side as well. Latissimus dorsi. Can you say latissimus dorsi?
Latissimus dorsi.
Yeah, and we call those our lats. You can say latissimus dorsi and then just say this is what we refer to as our lats. That is like the rock climbing muscle. So that is what allows you to pull yourself. So if you think of army crawls, that is what strengthens your lats. What do you think movement in a yoga class would do the same thing? Chaturanga, yeah, pulling yourself forward. Yeah.
Upward dog.
Upward dog, yeah, when you pull yourself forward. I would even say the pose that we did a minute ago, that squeeze your shoulders together and down, because you're finding that kind of forward motion.
Cobra.
Yeah, cobra. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Crow? Maybe crow?
Crow's just angry with everything. All in
For
there.
me, I feel like I have to really hold my back, but I also don't successfully do crow, so.
So maybe your lats are helping too much.
Yeah, like Crow's like the angriest pose. We're just like everything hurts. I'm dying, and I hit the floor.
Like,
Uh,
would that be more like the stuff we do?
it does
on the belly?
extend the shoulder and internally rotates. Yeah, I think your lats would help. So it's partially covered by the traps, so your lower traps. So for me, I think whenever my shoulders are wanting to, when I can feel my shoulders work, I know that my lats are somehow involved,
Yeah.
usually. Yeah, but that's more of the like, I'm climbing up.
That's why there's that weird lats machine.
Yeah, because it's so,
It's the
it's,
pull-up
that's
bar.
it. Yeah.
Pull up bar. It's this.
That's lats. That's so nice. And we don't do that a lot. However, I will show you when you're in this room how to get a lats. I can never get this down. That can't be right.
Tall person.
I was gonna say, who is our tallest person?
Tall girl.
Okay. So come back, whoop, and then pull yourself up. So that's a really fun one that you can always do. So if you're ever like, we're not going to do enough lats. It is really fun. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that one.
Would the stuff on the belly then be the best for the lats? I mean, if I'm thinking about in yoga poses, we don't do a lot of army crawling types.
We really don't. Honestly, I think it's the transition between Chaturanga Dandasana and upward facing dog.
Yeah.
Or sometimes if
Plank.
they have you, if you're in plank and then you touch your knee.
Yeah, because you get the whole
Some
side of
people
the
do
back
that.
involved.
Or how about
Yeah.
if you're doing, you know, like the back or this, would this do it? If you were doing-
Goalpost.
Yeah.
Well, so if you do it, you do feel those muscles engage. Maybe depending on how far back you are. So what's so fascinating about the muscles, right, is we know that they strengthen when we engage them against a force like gravity or weight. However, there's a difference between tonic contraction and contractions that actually build strength. So it's like, yes, they are working.
But
Are they really resisting enough weight to build strength? I don't know.
Are they
I guess
just more of a
it's-
stabilizer? Like, are they just more about keeping
Maybe they're just
the
more of the
rest like,
synergistic.
just making everything not move outwardly too much or too, like,
Yeah.
compensating a little bit?
It definitely feels like that it's involved,
Yeah.
but it's not the agonist. It's not the antagonist, right? Because the antagonist would be your chest
It
muscles.
is never going to be the main character.
It's the main character in
Yeah, but
that.
that's it. But that's so isolated.
I
Like,
know.
That's so what that is.
So my favorite lats is down on your belly. Is that horse? Oh yeah, that would be. I mean, it's not
You want or goddess?
because that's kind of all you're doing in that is squeezing together and down your back. I kind of feel like that's more your levator scapulae and your rhomboids though.
I love how this muscle has
The
created this
elevator.
much of a conversation.
Yeah.
What does it actually do?
So my favorite lats is down on your belly, is lifting up and finding. And it's not even it's more of a combination of like cobra. It's that lifting up, squeezing the very bottom of your shoulders together and down, and then leaning forward. So chaturanga dandasana to upward facing dog, I think would be like the clearest.
Mhm.
Let's think about it in crow pose though. That's more pushing away from you. So I think that's more pecs. Your lats might actually be like relaxed in crow pose, but I don't know.
I don't know.
That's the
Do
problem.
it, we'll touch you.
I don't know the answer. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like
That's the
it's
cool
do
thing
it,
is
we'll
I don't
touch
know.
you. They're doing something. Okay.
So-
Right.
Is everybody familiar that these are your biceps brachii and these are your triceps brachii? Okay. So triceps, biceps bend, triceps extend. Okay. Quadriceps straighten, they extend. Hamstrings bend. So that means that when we are strengthening or straightening your leg against gravity or your arm against gravity, in certain positions, it'll strengthen that muscle. That said, if you reach your arm out in front of you, palm face up. And let's just hold it there for a minute and you tell me if your triceps feel it first or your biceps feel it first. And how about engage your arms? You squeeze your arm, squeeze your shoulder back and down. Biceps, triceps.
Bicep.
Feel the top of your, you feel here?
It's my tricep.
I feel in my triceps.
I feel my hand is tingly.
Ooh,
Weird,
let's
right?
readjust then.
Let's
try again.
My hand is the tingly.
Okay, what about if you bend your elbow?
Still my tricep.
So your tricep.
I
Okay,
think
so that could either mean that your tricep is saying, "Hey, I need more action, strengthen me more," or that your tricep is doing more work than your biceps are because your biceps are so buff. Yeah. Okay, let's lower it down, shake it out. Now is your whole arm warm? Isn't that funny how just a little bit can do it?
I'm just so tingly now.
Gluteus maximus. So we highlight that because it's the most superficial. However, medius and minimus often help. Call those your glutes. If you want to say if it's your butt muscles in class, you can. There's nothing wrong with that word. If you want to say booty, I don't care as long as it makes sense to you and it feels right. I wouldn't say sit on your ass. I wouldn't say that. If you have a very strong, like, no, this is a room of adults and we like to use that language and that's how you are, I'm not going to say no. I just typically refrain from swearing unless it's, in general. I'm not sure that I ever don't. Okay, so let's go to this figures, the skinless figures inner thighs. So we mentioned two of the adductors, sartorius, adductor longus. So that is what is responsible for bringing your legs in together. So when you're,
Both of them?
adductor longus and sartorius. There's other adductor magnus. Well, we will go over the rest of them. These are just two of the bigger ones. Adductor longus is the longest of the adductors, and sartorius is the longest muscle in your body. Usually.
Sartorius is the longest.
Mm-hmm. What did you think it was?
I don't think I.
Longest.
Yeah. You didn't have a favorite?
I didn't know I had this many.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was so many groups.
There are
I
so-
thought there was larger groups.
Well, right,
Not so many subgroups.
shoulders, arms, back, core, legs. But within those, there's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what's surprising.
Yeah.
I think I figured it was quad, but just didn't know specifically.
Well, and we will actually go into what are those four muscles too.
Right.
Just enough so that you've heard the name, you've said it out loud, you know what it does, and then you'll usually just say quads. Okay. So sartorius, adductor longus are your inner thighs. So that means that when you're drawing your knees in together against resistance, those strengthen. When you're bringing your knees farther apart, they lengthen. And that could be against resistance or not. So, can you think of a yoga pose where you are fighting resistance to squeeze your knees in together? There are not that many.
Chair. You squeeze
Chair? Yeah, if you are actively squeezing them in. And the resistance would be... What is the resistance? What is strengthening your legs? Is it just gravity?
Balance.
Balance, yeah, left and right.
I would say forward and back. Balance.
Forward and back. Both, yeah. Okay.
The concentric contraction. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
just
looking at?
that. So if we think about the idea that muscles strengthen when they're being used to their function against resistance. And I know I was dreaming about muscles all night because I was preparing for this last night, and I was like, just talking Elwood's ear off, and he didn't care at all. But so when you're when you're squeezing in together, the resistance would be gravity, but also maybe the fatigue of the muscles surrounding. Your body wants to be here, but we're inviting it here. What about eagle? And that's way easier, right? Yeah, it's balance and weight. So the weight of your own body and gravity. So the opposite is true of your abductors. So your adductors bring things into your body. Your abductors abduct. They bring things far away. So when you are spreading your legs wide versus resistance. So can we think of things that do that? And you might have to change the orientation of your body. What's resisting? What's the resistance? Why is my leg not wanting to hold up? Why am I working really hard? Gravity. Yeah. So poses like half moon. I wasn't going to hit you in the face, don't worry. What else? What about frog? Frog, yeah, and goddess pose. We're opening up your inner thighs. We are using our strength to open up our legs. What about front? Like send it hand to toe. Gravity? Yeah.
About lunges. There's more adductor.
Good question. So abductors and abductors are side to side. Usually, there is some caveat there. Lunges are forward and back. So that would actually be the anterior and posterior. Okay. That would be your hip flexor group and your hamstrings, the attachments there, your glutes. Good question. Okay, so the semimembranous biceps femoris, those are your hamstrings. There's more, so don't think that that's all. There's more. Technically, there's 3. And then calf muscles, gastrocnemius, soleus. So the back of your leg, those muscles help to bend your knee. The front of your leg, those muscles help to straighten. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
What are the ones in the front of the leg called?
Quadriceps? Oh, anterior tibialis. Good question. And I know anterior tibialis off the top of my head. Flexor digitorum. Let's see. Medial side deep to the. Nope. That's not right. Lies lateral. Flexor hallucis longus runs from the fibula to the top of the big toe. Most of them, the calf muscles are in the back. There's 4, so tibialis anterior. We'll flip the page and find out in just a second. Actually, it'll be like 5 pages. So let's go to page 21. So does anybody think it would be helpful to write down a muscle on their body, where it is, or no? Is anybody interested in that? Steps into it? Yeah? Not so much? You don't have to draw on your body. I get it if you don't want to. Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind.
Okay. Are we doing it?
Sure.
I'll do it with you then. I don't want you to not. Does anybody need a pen? We're good? You're good. Okay. So I don't want you to pick all of them to do. Let's pick maybe 1 per group, or maybe just 3 that you want to remember that you don't know already. Obviously, quadriceps, if you write that, I'm going to be like, no. I'm going to make you wipe it off. So my favorite muscle in the whole body is the zygomaticus major, and that's your smile muscles. That goes from your temple down to your cheeks.
So we should write that on our face.
Do it, Mandy.
You do what you want to do. I'm not going to go that. But can you say zygomaticus?
Zygomaticus.
Yeah, and we're going to say this a lot. So this is now Latin. So you're learning the English variation, Sanskrit, and Latin. No big deal. We're just learning a lot of things. So zygomaticus major. So erector spinae. Can you say erector spinae?
Erector spinae.
These are one of my favorite things to talk about in general, because so many poses strengthen and stretch them. So they are on your back. They run in little groups up and down your spine like this. Just many, many, many layers of them. They're responsible for allowing you that tonic contraction to just be upright. And also it's allowing you to twist. So they're one of the muscles in your back where when you engage both, you are erect, erector, right? When you engage one, you twist, spine. Right? Isn't that cool? So erector, spine. And when you think about a twist, we don't really think about what we're doing, but when you start to think, oh, this is one side of my back is working hard, you can engage that side, squeeze everything down, and twist, and you don't even have to use your other side. You can just simply use the other side. Should I turn the heat on? I'm gonna in a minute. Okay. The erector spinae, they're in different groups. So top, middle, bottom. The iliocostalis. Can you say iliocostalis?
Iliocostalis.
Okay. Can you say longissimus?
Longissimus.
And can you say spinalis?
Spinalis.
Okay. So the iliocostalis lumborum, that laterally flexes the spine and extends the vertebral column. So we'll go thoracic. Yeah. So the way that they work is the lower spine, the mid spine, and the top spine. So we'll go from the ground up. Iliocostalis thoracis extends, laterally flexes, so side to side, and rotation through the thoracic vertebrae. And the cervicis, if you think cervicis is cervical for all of them, it's the same thing up towards your neck. So we extend, and it twists in laterally, it assists in lateral flexion and twist. So that's the iliocostalis muscles. The longissimus, and these are all considered erector spinae. The longissimus, those are the middle. They extend and laterally flex the vertebral column and depresses the ribs. They draw the ribs in and down. Longissimus cervicis extends the vertebral column and bends it side to side. And the longissimus capitis extends the head and turns face to one side. So it's the turning to the left and to the right. So that muscle is your longissimus capitis. So can you turn to your left and to your right? So that is longissimus capitis. Can you say longissimus capitis?
Longissimus capitis.
Okay. And then when you think of side bends, so anytime you go into half moon, on either side, that's iliocostalis thoracis, iliocostalis thoracis, and iliocostalis cervicis. But you can think of that as your iliocostalis. And finally, the spinalis muscles, the spinalis thoracis extends the whole vertebral column along with the cervicis, and the capitis extends the head. So spinalis capitis, in addition to semispinalis capitis, is muscles on either side of your neck that supports you from C7 up. So if you've ever seen a picture of a scalp, so you see the back of the head, how there's two little spots. So if you draw, so from the outside down, so the outside down, the inside down to connect. Why is this pen not working? So those are your semispinalis capitis, those muscles. It's a thin layer of muscle, just, and there's a few of them there, including your connection points for your spinalis. So your erector spinae, basically, if you think about it, and I can show you what it looks like here. So that's your erector spinae. They're involved in anything that lifts you up, that turns your torso side to side, or that twists you. So all of that, you'll probably only ever say your spinal muscles. But if you want to get fancy and you want to use the actual anatomical term, it's erector spinae. So semispinalis capitis, it works with the longissimus capitis to extend the head and rotate it to turn left and right. So that's, again, the one that allows you to turn left and right. The rectus capitis posterior, major, and minor. So those are, can you say suboccipitals?
Suboccipitals.
Yeah, so your occipital bone, this is below it. So it's below, it supports your skull. Your suboccipitals, they're underneath that thin layer that allows you to turn side to side, and they help you turn side to side. So these are kind of agonist, right? These are synergists, these are helper muscles, but your semispinalis capitis is the one that allows you to actually sit upright. Super fun, right? So let's hold the back of your head. So can you tell that there are muscles? So let's press really gently So the back of your head, and then lower down. Let's see if you can find the base of your skull. So there's two little protrusions. So that's the base of your skull. And you can press. You can go up a little bit. Can you feel muscles there? Press your thumbs in and move side to side a little. Little bit of pressure. We don't want to give ourselves cranial sacral. And then go down. So can you feel the little thin, how thin that layer of muscle is? That teeny tiny muscle is what's responsible for all of your movement. So stretching those muscles. Anytime we do chin to chest, chin to collarbone, that's what allows you to do that. And those muscles, when they are tight and shortened, they can cause tension, headaches, and migraines. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To strengthen them, what would we do? So they allow you to lengthen your neck. How would we do that against gravity or against resistance? I gave you.
Lay on your back.
I gave it away. Yeah, so that's a really, really good one. One of the best ones is to lay down. This is a Kundalini exercise as well. So chin towards your chest as much as you possibly can, like super uncomfortable. Then lift your head up and hold it until you start to shake or it's uncomfortable, and then lower back down and relax. That is what people like who have the hump in the back of their neck, like me. That's what helps strengthen the muscles in the back of our neck, so they allow you to lift up really tall to prevent that hump from either getting worse or hopefully to help reverse it, to find that strength. Can you think of another pose that might strengthen? So it's the muscles that go side to side as well. So what other pose are you sideways, or you lift an arm up and a gaze up? Trikonasana. Yeah, triangle does the same thing. So that strengthens the semispinalis capitis, as well as the one that it works with, longissimus capitis. Yeah. So the longissimus, long muscle, and the semispinalis capitis. And capitis, whenever you hear that, you can think of just head, cap, capitis.
How about laying down and just turning your head to the side?
Does that, so like in supine twist, when you do that, yes, when you have your shoulder lifted, I feel like it gives you a little bit of ability to lower down against gravity, or with your using gravity to help stretch, so yeah.
Or even when you have your legs and you're doing that, and you have, like, you look over your shoulder.
And that'll stretch your scalenes too, which are next. So scalenes are a group of 3 that support lateral flexion. So that's that side to side bending. So the front, so they have to do with your breathing. So the front actually helps to elevate the first rib, or if you're nice and still, you can bend your neck forward and turn side to side. So lateral flexion, you'll hear that a lot. Lateral flexion is that side bend, side to side. If you go to the next page, so middle scalenes. Is that page 22?
Yeah.
Okay. I apparently made my book the weird one because it was the opposite, but okay. So middle scalenes, so scalenes are on either side of your neck. They attach just like the erector spinae, go in little bits. It's the top, the middle, the bottom. Like they attach at different spots, but they all are technically the scalene group. The middle ones act the same, and the posterior, they raise the second rib to help you breathe, and then they laterally flex and rotate the neck. So if you were to think about what Judy was talking about, that would stretch out the posterior, so the back of your scalenes when you go to the side. So either way, when you twist to the side and when you lift your chin up and back, you're stretching out the scalenes. So side, lateral flexion, and twist. Because you have to think right and left. So for these ones that, when you're leaning to the left, you might be strengthening the scalenes, but you might be stretching these ones, right? With either side. We already talked about the trapezius. We call those your traps. That's a big muscle, occipital bones, the base of your skull, all the way down to your shoulder blades, and then down towards your vertebrae. So it's a big old muscle, and it supports the weight of your arms, and it helps you to draw your shoulders back and down. Helps lifting the scapula. Nope, that is wrong. It is, oh yeah, there we go. I'm like, I think I said the wrong thing. No, it retracts, depresses, and rotates the scapula in. So your traps isn't super hard to strengthen in yoga. It's quite easy. Every high plank we do, right? Your shoulders are strong. Every down dog, we're resisting gravity. But how would you stretch your traps, do you think? So if they're responsible for holding the weight of your arms and squeezing everything back and down to support your back. What would be the opposite of that?
Rounding.
Rounding, yeah. Thread the needle, yeah. What about, so what's the opposite of arms down?
Thumbs up.
Okay, so maybe child's pose? So mountain, I see what you're saying, but when you lift your arms up overhead, do you feel like your traps are working hard? Like lift your arm up and then is your trap hard or soft?
Hard.
Hard, yeah. So you're actually lifting it up. So that's a good way to strengthen your traps. But in child's pose, arms out or even arms down to the side would help to loosen that up.
Would cat work, or is it like two-way bearing?
Ooh, no, I think, so some of them, so in cat pose, like a little side wiggle, that's why I always say wiggle to the side, because that gets into your laps and it can get into your lats and it can get into your, like the bottom of your traps. It's not necessarily a yoga pose, but that wiggle really helps.
Like eagle arms.
Yeah, eagle
And
arms
then,
that can
like,
open up the back.
open.
Yes, and chin towards your chest, left and right. The pin and stretch really works for the traps. So I have straps. Well, they're in the drawer, in one of those drawers. Is there any way you could? It's the very drawer to the very left, or Melissa, whoever might be closer. Could you grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straps, or just throw all of them over here, and I will bring them for us. Thank you. Okay, Judy. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So let's do the actual pin and stretch to stretch our traps. Does anybody feel like their traps are tight on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay,
every
good. That's
second
why I
of
was
my life.
hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, not good. I'm sorry. But me too. That's why I thought this would be a really good.
Like a year ago.
What?
You're nursing. You really only grew a neck a year ago.
Oh, God. 2.5, 31 pounds.
Yeah, doing this.
So
All
let's
the time.
bring the strap over your right shoulder. And then with your right hand, hold on to the front. And with your left hand, hold on to the back. And you can just relax your left hand down. So with your right hand, so your left hand, stabilize it. So you want to hold it so that even if you were to pull really hard, your left hand would stay where it's at. There we go. So with your right hand, you want to pull down and lean your head to your left. Now, do you feel the stretch or no? I don't. So I'm going to readjust it to a little more towards the meat, the middle part, the belly of your trap muscle. And then lean to the left. If you don't feel anything, pull down a little bit harder and then lean. So we don't want it to tingle or find numbness. Right? So this is a pin and stretch that you can do for yourself. Do you feel anything?
I feel more in my neck than I do in my trap.
And
Like,
so up higher? Okay.
I have better luck with my hands than the strap.
Okay. The strap, I feel like sometimes you have to pull really hard to get to it.
I always overstretch. I can feel numbness in my leg.
Really? Okay, let's go the other side.
I told you my back's a little bit.
Good to know. So the reason why whenever you would do something like this, or any neck stretch in general, why I always say if you find tingling, numbness, or pain, come out of it, is because you can compress, you can impinge a nerve very easily in your neck. I mean, up and down your spine, nerve impingement is unfortunately a thing that happens. If we loosen up on a regular basis and if we get this wide range of movements, hopefully it doesn't happen too much. But it's good to let people know, because otherwise they'll be like, I don't know, my legs always numb in Mandy's class. I don't know why. Nope. we gotta pull out. So when you feel balanced, you can let go. Let's go 2 more, and then we're gonna take a little break and actually pick one to write on us. So levator scapulae, which is the one that reminded some people of an elevator and some people of Darth Vader.
Yes.
It's a rectangle muscle to the back and side of the neck that originates up in the cervical vertebrae and inserts in the middle of your shoulder blade, of your scapula. So neck to scapula. It lifts your scapula and lies underneath the sternocleidomastoid and underneath the trapezius. So it's underneath all of those, but it allows you to do the shoulder shrug. Shoulder shrug. So shoulder shrug with weights is the easiest way to strengthen your levator scapulae. The reason why we want to strengthen all the muscles around our shoulders is because we want to have stable shoulders so that we can do all the things that we love. How do you think that we would strengthen it in a yoga class, though? Levator scapulae. Against gravity. So think about against resistance, because we don't typically use weights, right? So usually it's our body weight against gravity. How would you strengthen? So anything at all where you feel...
Seated and lifting yourself up.
Yeah. When you have the pendulum or any of those variations, yeah.
How about downward dog?
Yeah, because you're drawing everything back and down. Mm-hmm. And you're relaxing and you're coming back into it. High plank, right? You can let yourself collapse and then press away and let yourself. It's not necessarily a shoulder shrug this way, but it is definitely movement.
How about chaturanga? Because
Yeah, you're definitely starting at a soft, neutral position and then you're moving forward into it. What about crow pose? It's chaturanga arms.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. Or maybe it might be just a helper. Might be just a helper there. Finally, lats. So we talked about latissimus dorsi. Lats, big muscle. It's a lot. So if we look back, go back to the previous page on page 20. You see that white on the right picture, so the right figure, that white strap, that big layer of connective tissues. And then just to the left where it says lats, see how big that muscle is? That is a big muscle. That I just wanted to show you how big it was. It's large. It internally rotates and flexes and extends the shoulders. So it's the one that we talked about that allows you to climb. So it definitely draws your shoulders, back and down. Because if you think about climbing, it's that kind of movement. Okay, let's pick a favorite head, neck, and spine muscle. I assume you're going to go for a spine. And we might have to help each other out because I'm not sure that you can draw on your own neck or your back or your face. If you want to skip this one, I get it.
What if we did traps?
Hmm?
What if we did trapezius? It's right on the top.
Oh, you could probably do it on yourself too.
Yeah.
Be hard, but you could do it. Yeah, traps.
Fun.
I was thinking deltoid.
Deltoid. Oh yeah, deltoid.
Deltoid. There you go. Deltoids.
We didn't go over deltoid yet.
Well, when we do.
Oh, good. And will you do the front, the middle, and the back? Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go. I love me some levator scapulae. Oh,
Such a big word.
isn't it? Yeah, that's true.
Such a big word.
So we will get into the muscles here.
Does the levitator
No,
connect to the clavicle?
it's back.
It's the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so it comes out.
Well, no, I don't think the levator scapulae. The back and side, cervic, and it inserts in the median. No, it is the back.
Of the neck.
It's a good question though, because some of them do.
Kind of wrap around.
Yeah. The SCM comes down. There's a lot of things that attach to that right here on your collarbone. SCM. Well, if you're going to pick one, let's pick one. And you can help each other out or write it on yourself. I'll pick... Could somebody write latissimus dorsi somewhere on my back?
Sure.
Thank you. Do you like the pen you have?
Do you like the pen I have? It's your body, not mine.
I like that it's a highlighter.
Right?
I'll go highlighter. Yeah, I like that.
Do you want the big word or the little word?
How about just lats? Lats seems really good. Yes, please.
Oh my god.
Wait, it's like that. So somewhere there.
How pretty am I making this for you?
No, not pretty.
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna see it. Well, I guess
It already
will you
looks
do the other
pretty
side
'cause it's
too,
blue.
please? Did you make it pretty like you did?
Slightly.
It's
not a lot, though.
You did.
Not a
lot though. Just enough that it makes it you can read it. They are totally looking in right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody.
Ooh.
That work?
Oh, right in my back fat crease. Cool, thank you.
Right in my back fat crease. That's what I was going for, Mandy.
Hey,
Fat crease.
apparently I need to work on my lats.
She's like, I want to be in that class.
I just feel like it's like they're drawing on each other and it's a gym.
Yeah.
What kind of class is that?
It's our art time. Would you like help, Steph, or are you gonna pick? You're still deciding.
Yeah, I'm thinking about. I think I like the SCMs. I like the roughness.
Yeah, isn't that fun? It's like a really strong part of your body.
Yeah, neck muscles are so fascinating. They do so much, but they're so thin.
Yeah,
Feels like you could just like
Agreed.
rub them off.
yeah. There's they're so little, but there's so many of them.
Yeah, it's cool.
What about you, Naya?
I think the levator scapulae.
Oh. Can I help you?
Yeah.
Do you want orange or purple?
Surprised me. I feel like purple will show up better on my skin.
I kind of already, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't know. I should.
Think of what an amazing thing that would
Do
be
you want
to
the
show
shape
like,
or just the
She's
word?
like, I thought
Okay.
you were gonna be a yoga thing.
So
Why are you
that's
drawing
the-
on yourself?
Here.
You just got a nail with your
Messing
neck
up
tattoo?
for life.
Do you, yeah, nothing says I don't want this.
Sorry.
I love how dark of a turn that was. So quickly.
This isn't gonna work.
Oh, Stephanie.
We go pen.
Making anatomy.
Interactively fun.
So good.
Oh, sorry.
This is quite hard. I've only ever done this on my arms and legs and stuff. Does that hurt?
No.
So we're taking a break after this, by the way. Alright.
This was like, how am I gonna do this? And then realized it was a room full of mirrors.
If only the universe would show us a way to do it.
It was. I was like, crap. Oh yeah. Okay, you're right.
I just want to apologize that it's not the prettiest, but it's there.
I forgive you.
I didn't do the shape because it's just really hard. Okay.
Thank you.
I did my
for your
best. You're welcome. Here, let me show you at least what it.
So it's like here.
What is that one?
Levator scapulae. Yep, it allows you to
Elevate those scapula.
The Vader.
It elevates the Vader.
All right.
To be fair,
And
that's the thing that I
with
just
the
went.
three
Erector
space.
Ooh, yeah, you want those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do all three of those.
Oh, yeah, that is going to. Let me get an exact. Did I bring that book with me? Let me get it the exact picture. Okay.
So how about?
Nailed it. Yes. Yeah, nailed it.
I was like, let's see if I can make my S
Yeah, see, that's what I'm.
the
like, too.
correct
That's an
way.
adorable-
Shouting the like. There we go. Oh, cool. Sitting there. How do I? No. That took way more brain power than I anticipated. I'm trying to figure out how to do an arm back.
Right, yeah.
How about so I'll do the groups like this. So it's this is the spinalis, the middle
Yeah.
longissimus, and then the iliopsoas.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, iliopsoas. Does that make sense? Because otherwise it's gonna be it'll just be like yeah.
I'm telling you, for Halloween, just do like this huge smile line around your face.
I
'Cause
actually-
it's the one time that no one would be like, "What is that lady doing?"
Okay, I got. You can stand up tall. Okay, whatever's comfortable.
Yeah.
There you go. You want the right side or left or both? Let's do both.
That didn't work.
That hurt.
No, not at all. And you can press harder.
I don't know if I'm coloring on you
Yeah,
or if
it's
your
I
skin
can
is just
see
like
it.
reacting.
I see color.
Yeah.
Is that color? Okay,
Yeah.
Judy, traps.
Sure.
Traps.
So much brain power to see if you can remember how to do words that later backward.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. No way.
Fun little game though. I'm trying to see. Let's go.
Brain game.
Does that hurt? Oh, sorry. We're doing it though. Okay, then one more. See. This is why we talk about creepy fingers. How if you're anywhere near the side, it feels like people are tickling you for days, when really it's not at all near the side. But tickling happens. Sorry.
It's really pretty. I hope you take a picture.
Okay, that's one. That was the one side. I'm just yanking your shirt up. You can stand up normally. Yeah. This is really pretty. Somebody's gonna get a tattoo. I know, just feel it. It's a good tattoo to get.
You have a nice back too.
Oh, thank you.
It looks like a goddess.
Oh yeah, I was listening to like goddess Kundalini music all morning. That's probably why. I'll snot on car for the rescue. It's not the most symmetrical. There we go, a little more symmetrical. Okay, I'm gonna write it down. Erector. Spinning. I ran out of room. This pen is so interesting. It shows up like after the fact. Okay. Do you want to take it? Do you want a picture of it, or
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. It's super.
do you want to turn around?
It's
so I
super
can-
muscular.
It totally looks
Exactly,
like
yeah.
a cool tattoo.
Yeah, it's super like straight.
It kind of looks like I scratched the everything around your back.
It
Wow,
really
it's so
does.
cool.
In like the weirdest way.
It is.
But it is, it's
And
so
what's
pretty and like a not knowing what it is.
Oh,
way.
cool. That is really cool.
It looks
actually.
like
so
a
I wrote
henna.
a vector.
Oh
spinning.
yeah, it does.
It's
It looks
like
like a
henna.
henna
And then what are the
tattoo.
three?
You're right.
Something.
Yeah, good question.
I wasn't testing your,
Mandy, it looks like a henna.
how to remember. I
Yeah.
more want to
I-
work
I
on my
think it's the-
pronunciation.
Hold on. The
Iliocostolda.
iliocostalis is the bottom one. Okay, so it's the spinalis, the longissimus, and the iliocostalis. So the spinalis is closest to your spine.
Okay.
The longissimus is that long one, and the iliocostalis is the one on the bottom. Did I take your?
No, I think I gave
Is this yours?
There's a
Oh, here
pink
it is.
one.
Here.
Okay, that's yours.
Thank you. Okay. Iliocostalis is the on the outside.
Yes.